What are the real consequences of having anterior pelvic tilt? If you have anterior pelvic tilt and you can't fix it and you're stuck, does that mean your spine is going to snap like a surfboard in a big wave? Or does it mean basically nothing? We're going to talk about that in this video. So first of all, what the heck is anterior pelvic tilt? Well, basically it's when you are stuck in lordosis. Now, some people might make up all kinds of equations like, oh, if it's this angle and this specific number relative to your ASIS and your PSIS and blah, blah, blah. We're not going into that. The whole idea here is to keep things simple because ultimately you need to figure out what your body needs. So if you are feeling like you have a huge curve in your lower back, like your booty sticks out and you just can't seem to get that to correct, you probably have anterior pelvic tilt. But if you want more detail on how to test this, I have a video that I'll link to down below. Make sure you check in the description box for that. So once you are stuck in this position, you can't really correct it, you can't flatten your lower back, you could possibly have some issues with the muscles that control your pelvis. Anterior pelvic tilt does not mean that you have a horrible medical condition that you cannot fix. It's not a genetic defect. Everybody has a little bit of a different preset shape of their spinal bone. So there's gonna be some curve, no matter what, in the lower back that goes like this. And people have different intensities in that curve, severity of curve. So some people have a really big lower back curve and it doesn't cause them any problems. Some people would naturally have a little bit less. The problem isn't that you have a certain measurement that is wrong or deviates from some magical, supposedly magical number. The problem only arises when you can't get out of it and you can't escape, and the muscles around your spine, around your pelvis, your hip muscles are holding you. Then you end up in Snap City. If you spend all day sitting, trying to sit perfectly straight with a really hard arched back all day long, you might train the muscles of your pelvis and your spine to get you stuck in this position, which is not great if you ever need to go into the opposite position. The key here again is to ATM, always think muscles. Your muscles need to learn how to go into both anterior tilt and posterior pelvic tilt safely, comfortably, and easily. If you're constantly stuck here and you go, oh God, it might actually hurt. You might actually strain a muscle. So you need to be training your body to get in and out of both extremes comfortably, slowly, and gradually so that you can do them both without any kind of pain. If you're locked constantly in a posterior tilt or you're locked constantly in anterior pelvic tilt, you're not gonna be happy. But no, it's not gonna cause cancer or anything. These days I like to do a stupid sport called surfing, and that puts me into anterior pelvic tilt quite often when I'm going to pop up and also when I'm paddling to try to catch a wave or to dodge a wave. That means the muscles that put me into anterior pelvic tilt or into extreme lordosis are getting stronger and stronger. And if I don't do enough practicing of the opposite, my low back gets crazy tight and starts to hurt. And other stuff can start to hurt too. Like if I don't take care of things properly, my left hip really starts to jam up because all the muscles are trying to figure out what the heck they're supposed to do in the context of this constantly arched back. But then some days I get home and I slouch in front of the computer for a couple hours, and then I feel like actually going into the arch is really hard. And instead of being stuck in anterior pelvic tilt, I'm actually stuck in the slouched posterior pelvic tilt where my pelvis is tucked under me, my low back is curved into a C opposite of the anterior pelvic tilt we're talking about. And then if I don't properly stretch to open things up, my low back can hurt also. So whether I'm stuck in the extreme one direction or the extreme the other direction, my low back can hurt. So what I want you to take away is whether you have anterior pelvic tilt or posterior pelvic tilt, the consequences should be this. You ATM, always think muscles, and continue to build strength at every length. You want to have volition at every position. So practice exercises and stretches that get you into the opposite of what you are currently defaulting into. If you're stuck in anterior pelvic tilt, do exercises that get you out of it. Check out my anterior pelvic tilt fix program. I'll link to it in the description box and up above over here. If you have posterior pelvic tilt, then check out my free video on fixing posterior pelvic tilt. I'll drop that link down in the description box and also right there up above. It's right there. Go ahead and click it. Also, I've got tons of free videos on anterior pelvic tilt that I'll link to in the description box. And again, really, seriously, well, okay, I'm not gonna put it up there. I'm gonna put it at the end of this video. And before we get to the end, I want to ask you, what brought you to this video and what did you learn? Drop me a comment down below and make sure you share this if you found it helpful. And if you don't really feel like you have major problems with anterior or posterior pelvic tilt, but you want to rebuild your hips and your legs and you want to make everything feel better, be sure to go to uprighthealth.com/DIY and check out the Healthy Hips program. Like, share, and subscribe. And as always, I hope you remember that pain sucks. Life shouldn't.